Hey there guys, I'm back to another video. On this day, 20 years ago, Sly 2 Band of Thieves launched on the PlayStation 2 and is still widely considered as one of the best 3D platformers of all time. Only the third game Sucker Punch Productions developed, the team was able to transform Sly Cooper into the sandbox open world formula with ease. This is my favorite game of all time due to nostalgia, and the game's still kicking ass in 2024. Nearly everything about the game is perfect, and while certain missions aren't that fun to revisit, the story is still one of the best in gaming and the reason why I've fallen in love with other video game stories like The Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank Future, Crack in Time, and Sucker Punch's later Infamous 2. This video isn't going to be a play-by-play of Sly 2's development history and why it's still considered one of the best 3D platformers. Rather, this video is going to dive into my history with the Thieving Raccoon and my memories playing this game for the first time in the mid-2000s. Sly Cooper is still one of my favorite franchises ever. When Sly 4 was announced during E3 2011, you bet your ass I was excited. Funnily enough, I didn't learn about the official trailer until Damien told me at school. We were in 6th grade and I somehow missed the announcement floating around online. Fast forward back to 2005, I was still about 5 or 6 years old. My brother recently got a PS2 for his birthday because he tried it out at our neighbor's house and instantly wanted one for himself. He got Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 and 2 and the rest is history. My neighbor eventually showed him the first 2 Sly games and he wanted those too. The timing was perfect because Sly 3 commercials started to appear on TV and he convinced our parents to buy it. I still remember playing Sly 3's first hub world and walking around pickpocketing guards after staying home from kindergarten one day. It's still a core memory I associate with Sly Cooper because when my brother got home, he did the Into the Depths mission. I then sat back and watched him play. As we moved along with the Sly Cooper games, we found the other 2 at Target for like 20 bucks each. We played all the Sly games so much, we eventually had to get replacement copies because we scratched up the disc so much. This was obviously before resurfacing machines were commonplace in game stores. We also had to get a new PlayStation 2 because at some point the laser stopped reading the disc. We went from the original Fat Boy PS2 to the brand new Slim model. We then worked on Sly 1 before tackling Sly 2. Sly 1 was very different, but a nice way to see how the series began. The crab mission stumped us and we left our PS2 on a whole day when we went to school to not ruin our progress. We hid a pillow on top of the PS2 lights so our mom didn't see it. We were lucky because when we got home, the PS2 was still on and my brother finished the mission on that same attempt. Another core gaming memory I have with Sly Cooper. When we finally arrived at Sly 2, I will never forget the climax in episode 3's conclusion, where literally everything went wrong for the Cooper gang and the table was flipped on their head by Neela. The game's story is just well crafted, where every moment of victory or defeat has its place. These characters felt relatable in their decision making, where the Cooper gang might have been a misfit of friends stealing from bad people, but are an actual family. Because we played Sly 3 before this one, we knew all of the big spoilers that happened at the end with Bentley in a wheelchair and Dimitri eventually becoming a good guy. You might be wondering why I'm playing the PS2 original and not the PS3 version, and it's because if I'm going to revisit this game for the 20th anniversary, I have to play the original. The PS3 collection is nice and probably the best way to play it in 2024, but it's been over 15 years since I've played it on the PS2. The PS3 collection released in 2010, and that became the standard way I would play the series. Also, I just wanted some extra nostalgia points for this video. Revisiting Sly 2 in 2024 is significant because I haven't fully played this game in over 5 years. Last time was on stream in 2018 because I just wanted to. With the time gap in mind, I don't remember this game front to back like I used to. This sort of gave me a semi-fresh set of eyes when playing it for the past week. Sly 2 is still so much fun to play. It's obviously a product of its time, but the story is so strong. What makes this game one of the best, if not the best story for a 3D platformer is how the journey goes for our heroes. The importance of losing is so strong because when the Cooper gang loses, they lose hard. Their first defeat is obviously at the end of episode 3. The operation goes catastrophically wrong, leaving Bentley alone as Sly and Murray are captured. Neela is revealed to be pulling the strings and also gets Carmelita captured, showing her two-faced nature. Up until that moment, literally everything was going right for the Cooper gang. Even slight setbacks like Sly getting a tuxedo was fixed shortly after the problem arose. This one required Bentley, the weakest of the trio, to work up the strength to save the others, which gives the player episode 4, the most different episode in the game that's pretty much about saving Sly and Murray while foiling the Contessa's plans whenever possible. Their next defeat is after John Bassan sells all the clockwork parts to Arpeggio. The gang literally snagged up all 3 clockwork parts the episode before, and now they're left with nothing. When the Cooper gang wins, an eventual defeat is followed. This instance might be a little forced because losing everything instantly is crazy, but it makes sense given the context. They can't do another episode 3 finale because all the cards are now shown. Nothing else can surprise the player other than losing it all. Even the team van floating away was just salt on the wound. Lastly, the final moments of the game where Bentley gets his legs crushed and the Cooper gang destroy Clockla. What a finale, and a fitting conclusion at that. While the future Cooper legacy won't have to worry about clockwork anymore, it was at the cost of the Cooper gang. The series could have ended here and it would have been a fantastic duology of games. I mentioned earlier that the characters feel relatable, like they're human, and it's still true today. The emotions the Cooper gang goes through is one hell of an adventure. Standout character being Neela, who was fleshed out extremely well in building up her character as an ally before tearing it all down in episode 3. Her continuous betrayals lead up to her becoming Clockla, which is still weird, but a twist I'm down for. I mean, seeing Clockwork nearly be put back together in the first mission of episode 8 is still very memorable. Because it's been a few years since I played the game, finding the clue bottles became a fun challenge. I found myself stumped at the last clue bottles of each episode. Episode 4 has to be the hardest because you need to free Sly first before going after the clue bottles. Even then, some of the clue bottles were hidden away because of the size of the map. Split between the exterior and the interior of the prison made it difficult to navigate for the bottles. I definitely spent nearly an hour on this one, but once I found them all, it was very satisfying. I learned during this playthrough that at the start of episode 2, you can go to the left or right side of the pillars to learn about the Ninja Spire jump. I would always go to the right as a kid and went to the left this time to find some clue bottles and triggered the cutscene. I had no idea this was even a thing. The rest of the gameplay is still fun. Everyone wants to play as Sly the most because the maps are dedicated to his moveset. Bentley and Murray definitely have the spotlight during certain missions, but sometimes they're delegated to RC Chopper stuff or touring gun missions, which are worse than I remembered. By far my least favorite gameplay style during my playthrough. The mission structure is sound with Recon taking center at the start before Bentley is able to devise a plan that is good enough for the team. Making Sly 2 all about destroying clockwork parts after defeating him in Sly 1 is pretty cool. It's all about preventing the resurrection of Sly's biggest foe. I have a handful of memories with this game, so I'm just gonna go episode by episode and go from there. I might also talk about certain things between the episodes that I liked, like the villains and whatnot, so let's just get started. Episode 1, I got stuck on the bug painting mission as a kid because I didn't know about climbing to the structures in the club area. I simply didn't know how to get into Dimitri's office despite Bentley clearly spelling it out. Also, I forgot the vault was in here, so I had to backtrack it during this replay. Like I said, it's been a few years since I played the game. Episode 2, I remember during Boardroom Brawl, there's a code Sly needs to punch in to unlock the laser barrier. It's hidden under a table. My brother and I, we saw the code under the table. We thought we had to punch it in ourselves. So we grabbed a pencil and a piece of paper and wrote down the code just for Sly to do it automatically when he walks up to it. That is something that will always stick in my mind as another core memory for the series, just because me and my brother love doing the clue bottles and unlocking the vaults. As a kid, episode 3 has 2 of the toughest missions in the game. First is the spice mission up in the trees. I had no idea how to navigate between the vines to get to the spices, and I felt like I was stuck on this mission for hours when I was younger. Nowadays, I get it done relatively fast, but still, finding out which vines to take leading to the spices never gets easier. player. Next is the water bug mission, which if you played Sly 2 back in the day, you definitely struggled on this one. It's actually not that hard once you know where the water pool placements are. My problem with replaying it today is the fact that I died 4 times from sheer stupidity. I would get into Rajan's office and just get hit by one of the lasers or the firelights, and because I died, I have to redo the entire run from the beginning. Certainly not fun, but I can only blame myself for rushing into things. Episode 4 kind of speaks for itself. I got a bit emotional when Bentley was talking about reuniting with the gang at the end. Replaying episode 5 made me realize that this might be the best episode in the entire game. Now that everyone's back together, each mission feels consequential to blowing up the conflict between the Contessa and Neela. And with each member's mission, they aren't that convoluted and feel on theme for the character. Sure, taking photos of ghosts and dragging an old general to the safe house might be far-fetched, but they fit each character. Bentley's best missions are in this episode. I loved exploring the crypts as Bentley and Sly. Also, the map has great level design. Unlike episode 4, where it feels super tricky to get around, episode 5 feels natural in splitting between Neela's areas and the Contessa's massive fortress. I was able to find the clue bottles pretty fast because exploring the map was easy and not that complicated. Now, episodes 6 and 7 might be my favorite pairing episodes. John Bassan is an alright villain, Contessa and Neela are by far the standouts in the game, but how John Bassan's episodes are structured feel like Sucker Punch Productions really nailed the sandbox formula for Sly here. Both episodes feel very connected with well-designed missions and maps that make finding the clue bottles natural. The train heists are well-rounded to collect all 3 clockwork parts. I kept hitting the ice on the way out of the bear cave, but I will always remember the Canada games. Sabotaging John Bassan quickly became a non-viable strategy, forcing the Cooper gang to come up with an alternative plan on the fly. This plan ends up biting them in the end because it leads to the final episode. Arpeggio is obviously a red herring where his backstory and character fit as to why he wants to become a clockwork. But just like everyone else who works with Neela, he gets betrayed and dies in the first mission. Neela has been the antagonist the whole time, and she's earned it for the sinister stuff she's done so far. The final sequence of climbing through the debris to whack Clockla down is awesome. Just like in Sly 1, this time the stakes are higher as Bentley and Murray are kidnapped in the safe house. From start to finish, Sly 2 brings the player on a journey like no other in the 3D platforming genre. Even today, I cannot think of a 3D platformer that has such a rich story. Maybe Ratchet & Clank Future or Crack in Time, but that's like multiple Ratchet & Clank games worth of lore to get there. The gameplay is superb 3D platforming action. Switching between the Cooper gang members is still fun, with Sly being the standout player. Sure, it would have been cool if Bentley and Murray had more spotlight moments in the gameplay, but I think they all had a chance to shine at certain segments. The turret parts still blow, but I love Sly 2 Band of Thieves to death. I don't know if any other game will be able to overthrow this as my favorite game of all time. This game just does so much right, and my nostalgia blinds my judgment too much. It's crazy to think that this game is now 2 decades old. Every game has its problems, but Sly 2 Band of Thieves is literally perfect. And yeah, that's my video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me just going down memory lane, talking about Sly 2 Band of Thieves. If you have any memories with this game whatsoever, be sure to share them in the comment section below. I will love to read them. And yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys have not already, you can subscribe. I put new videos up on Saturdays. Follow me on social media. TV Sonic Gaming on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, pretty much everything. And you can check out my podcast called the Travis and Damien Podcast, which talk about games, movies, and anime every other week. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video once again. Now, see you guys next time with more videos.